It's been a bit of a struggle for the Columbus Blue Jackets this year, but they are looking forward as the season starts to wind down. Jay Forster of Locked On Blue Jackets is here to talk about where the team is and where the team is going. All that and a lot more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Blue Jackets, Jay Forster. And Jay, I know it hasn't been the easiest season for the Blue Jackets, but it's coming to an end, and let's start with this. Give me a bright side from this season, something that Blue Jackets fans can say was a positive so far.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, I've kind of reached this weird zen with the games now, because I'm like, okay, if we win, then I get to enjoy a win. If we lose, then we are, one step closer to that first overall pick, which, the last time the Blue Jackets picked first overall was, I want to say 2001 or 2002, and it was the Rick Nash draft pick, so it's been a minute. In terms of like the bright side of this season, I think it's been seeing so many young players kind of find their feet, get their start in the NHL. Like Kent Johnson just hit 30 points a couple of games ago. Kuramachenko has 16 goals in like his first 40 NHL games or something bananas like that. They've seen a lot of good young players kind of find their feet, and Tim Burney is now playing top line minutes. And before this season, I don't think Blue Jackets fans really knew who Tim Burney was. So it's been fun to see that. Like, the injuries have been rough. It's been a very long season, but getting to see these young players get their chance to, make their NHL debuts and to stick in the lineup and to really kind of succeed through adversity has been really fun.
Goaltending has been an issue all season, and there have been injuries there as well. Where is the team as far as goaltending is concerned, and your thoughts on how Tarasov has looked so far?
I have had absolutely no problems with Daniil Tarasov this season. I think, considering this is his rookie season in North America, he has been good. I don't think he's been great, but he has been good. The team around him has generally been pretty terrible, so, he hasn't got a whole lot of wins, but he has pretty good stats. I think he's looked really good. I think the Blue Jackets have a real kind of hidden gem with Tarasov. Beyond that, it's kind of a big question. Like, obviously, with Korpisalo going to Los Angeles, the Blue Jackets didn't really have anyone that could play behind Elvis Merzlikins. They ended up getting Jonathan Quick from the Kings, who they then flipped for Michael Hutchinson, who has not been very good for the Blue Jackets thus far. Again, I feel like probably because he's playing behind a not great defense, but it's kind of been I was like, okay, who's going to back Elvis up this season? Turns out it's Michael Hutchinson. Elvis is away from the team at the minute due to personal reasons. As I understand it, his grandmother in Latvia is very ill, so he has left the team to travel back to Latvia. So at the minute, the Blue Jackets are running with Michael Hutchinson and Daniil Tarasov, and I have a lot more faith in one of those guys than the other. However, as I'm sure you know, veterans always get the benefit of the doubt, so I imagine we'll be seeing a lot more of Michael Hutchinson and a lot less of Daniil Tarasov, which really I feel like it should be the other way around, but it has not been an auspicious start to Michael Hutchinson's CBJ career. I assume he is gone at the end of the season, and the Blue Jackets will kind of figure out what they want to do with goaltending in the future, but I think Daniil Tarasov has been a real... And he's one of those young players that kind of, it's been so exciting to see him kind of turn up, and he's not been very good in the AHL, but he has been, I think, quite good in the NHL, which is very exciting.
And a little unusual, to say the least. here we are. There's about a month left in the season. Talk to me about what kind of a season Johnny Gaudreau has had and what impact he's had on the Blue Jackets this year so far.
I have zero issues with what Johnny Gaudreau has done this season. I think a lot of people were expecting another kind of 115 points he had last season. But he was playing with Matthew Tkachuk, who obviously, as we've seen, has gone on to have kind of an MVP caliber season in Florida. So I think Gaudreau has not been the superstar that I think a lot of people thought he was going to be. I think he's been very, very good. He's got, I think, 55 points in 62 games or something like that, which is like, I'm happy with that. He's been quiet recently. I would like to see him kind of show up on the score sheet a little bit more, but he's been up and down. He's not been up and down the lineup. He's had a lot of different line mates. It's tough to build chemistry. He's new to the team. This is about as good as I was expecting from Gaudreau. I imagine he will be much better next season, especially if the Blue Jackets manage to get him a real number one center to play with.
Has he been happy in Columbus? Obviously, a big adjustment for him, a big splash made in the offseason. How has he been, at least psychologically, being on this team that has struggled all year?
I mean, I think he's never going to go out there and be like, man, I really made a mistake. I should have signed in New Jersey, or I should have stayed in Calgary. But as far as I can tell, he loves it in Columbus. Like, yeah, the team is struggling, but it seems like it's a pretty good group of guys. Like, the atmosphere in the locker room, I think, is pretty good. They've gotten rid of a lot of what I would call like problem players over the past couple of seasons. I don't think the vibes are great in Columbus right now because it's tough when the team is struggling. But I think it's, he's happy to be here. He likes it here. His wife likes it here by all accounts. Columbus is a great city. It's close enough that the family can come and visit. Like, they've had, his parents have been to a bunch of Blue Jackets games, but it's not so close that, they're knocking down the door to come for dinner every other night. So as far as I can tell, and, everything he said, he doesn't regret the choice to sign in Columbus. Would he have liked this season to be a little bit better? Almost definitely. But, I think that's everyone wants their team to succeed, and I think he understands that there's been inconsistencies. People have been injured. It's not been an ideal season for basically anyone. But I think he's excited about the future. He's got nothing but good things to say about, the younger players that he's been playing with. Kent Johnson specifically, he's got nothing but good things to say about Kirill Marchenko, who's been playing on his line for a little while. So I think next season we're going to see a big bounce back from Johnny Gaudreau. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
Well, looking forward to that. And maybe, just maybe, Connor Bedard will be joining the Blue Jackets. We have to wait and see about that. Jay, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
So you can find me at _Jacob Forster, JAKOB FORSTER. I will be yelling indiscriminately about hockey or Star Wars, or I've been posting some dog pictures recently, if that's the kind of thing that you're into. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. We are on every podcasting app of choice. We are on YouTube. Wherever you get Locked On NHL, Locked On Blue Jackets can also be found there.
All right, Jay, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you've got to try a Built Bar. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate, and they come in unbelievable flavors like peanut butter brownie, churro, coconut almond, or my personal favorite, cookies and cream. And not just is the taste great, but listen to these macros. Each bar averages just 130 calories and just 4 grams of sugar while packing a whopping 17 grams of protein. Now, you could still go to Built.com and have Built Bars ordered and delivered directly to your door. But now you could pick them up in person if you need some right away. Just go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club to get Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. You can thank me later.